And is it stamina that unseasonably freaks forth a bluet, a Quaker lady by the lake? So small a drop of sky that splashed and held, four-petaled, creamy in its throat? The woods around were brown, the air crisp as a car's table-water biscuit, and smelt of cider. There were frost apples on the trees in the field below the house. The pond was still, then broke into a ripple. The hills, the leaves that have not yet fallen, are deep in oriental rug colors. Brown leaves in the woods set off gray trunks of trees. But that bluet was the focus of it all. Last spring, next spring, what does it matter? Unexpected as a tear when someone reads a poem you wrote for him. It's this line here. That bluet breaks me up. Tiny spring flower, late, late in dour October. Zug, zumph, these words out of funnies. What do the funnies say? Look in this drawing. They are walking up a country road, far from a great war. The balloon coming out of the little one's mouth says, "My, I'm sure hungry, and tired from walking." The big one's balloon says, "We can ask at the farmhouse up ahead to put us up for the night." Here, in the long panel that takes the space of 3 ordinary panels, they are sitting around the supper table, with the farmer and family, eating creamed chicken on waffles. Crying is a habit with me. You mustn't mind. Onions make me. Smog, headlines in the daily news, not getting enough sleep, going to the movies and not going, fear of getting bawled out by people shorter than me, animals in zoos, deserted buses late at night, tear gas, hunger, frustration, sob. And oh yes, superfluous lines of verse and great beauty moved me to tears, sliding out of me like oil out of an over-oiled electric fan. The day gets slowly started, a rap at the bedroom door, bitter coffee, hot cereal, juice, the color of sun which isn't out this morning. A cool shower, a shave, soothing Noxzema for razor burn. A bed is made. The paper doesn't come until 12 or 1, a gray shine out the windows. No one leaves the building until those scissors are returned. It's that kind of place. Nonetheless, I've seen worse. The worried gray is melting into sunlight. I wish I'd brought my book of enlightening literary essays. I wish it were lunchtime. I wish I had an appetite. The day agrees with me better than it did, or better I agree with it. I'll slide down a sunslip yet this crass September morning. Under the French horns of a November afternoon, a man in blue is raking leaves with a wide wooden rake, whose teeth are pegs, or rather dowels. Next door, boys play soccer. You gotta start over, sort of. A round attic window in a radiant gray house waits like a kettle drum. You gotta start. The Brahmsian day. Lapses from waltz to march. The grass, rough-cropped as Bruno Walter's hair, is stretched, strewn, and humped beneath a sycamore, wide and high as an idea of heaven, in which Brahms turns his face like a bearded thumb, and says, "There is something I must tell you," to Walter Bruno. In the first movement of my second, think of it as a family planning where to go next summer in terms of other summers. A material ecstasy, subdued, recollective. Bruno Walter, in a funny jacket with a turned-up collar, says, "Let me sing it for you." He waves his hands, and through the vocalise-shaped spaces of naked elms he draws a copper beech, ignited with a few late leaves. He bluely glazes a rhododendron, a sea of leaves, against gold grass. There is a snapping from the bright work of parked and rolling cars. There almost has to be a heaven, so there could be a place for Bruno Walter, who never needed a cry of a baton. Immortality, in a small, dusty, rather gritty, somewhat scratchy Magnavox from which a forte drops like a Brillo pad, frayed, But it's hard to think of the sky as a thick glass floor, with thick-soled Viennese boots tromping about on it. It's a whole lot harder thinking of Brahms and something soft, white, and flowing. Life, he cries, here in the last movement, is something more than beer and skittles. And something more is a whole lot better than beer and skittles, says Bruno Walter, darkly under the sod. I don't suppose it seems so dark to a root. Who are these men in evening coats? What are these thumps? Where is Brahms and Bruno Walter, ensconced in resonant, plump easy-chairs covered with scuffed brown leather, in a pungent autumn that blends leaf-smoke, sycamore, tobacco, other, their nobility wound in a finale, like this calico cat asleep, curled up in a bread-basket, on a sideboard where the sun falls.